that was yesterday's celebration. To me, Earth Day is a very big day. It's just next to the Environment Day, which we all want or we all celebrate on our day-to-day life. If I would actually just say, today it's actually supposed to be a worldwide event, or yesterday was supposed to be a worldwide event that actually celebrates diversity of Earth and highlights protection of our planet. Maybe it will come out later, but I'm really looking forward to hearing the statement from the UNFCCC or the Secretary General from UN, what he said. I'm also looking at what Dr. Arif just said some few minutes back, that the IPCC report that actually says what are the emissions or what are going to be the future impacts of the war between Russia and Ukraine in terms of emissions, and how is it going to affect us all over the world now that we've seen fuel and inflation going up. So maybe later we might get actually the chance to by doctor to bring out what IPCC predicts will happen, because some of the COPs, just as doctor said that what happened in Glasgow last year, India was part of the delay in terms of announcing the last discussions that we were all privy to. But I'm very happy what he just said, that India relooks into divestments of fossil fuels and now we're looking into renewables. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Stefan. That was great insight all the way from Africa. And I know mining is being developed in many of the countries that I visited, careless of really the environment is having a big impact. But right now I wanted to switch gears and talk from a women's perspective. Sarana is all the way in Trinidad, and she perhaps has a different perspective from a family standpoint and also from a home standpoint, what we can teach our children perhaps about the environment. I have 2 kids myself. We go for walks in nature, and what can we learn and what can you tell us about what's happening in Trinidad from the oceanic point of view, and also a little bit of your background on the research and also the teaching that you do with children. I believe you're a professor and teaching all of this concepts to younger generations. So please go ahead, Sarana, tell us what is happening in your part of the world and what sustainable methods you can teach us to develop for our families.
Hi, everyone. First of all, thanks so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here with all of you. So firstly, in terms of, I think, environmental issues that are affecting particularly Trinidad and Tobago, for decades, we have essentially been an oil and gas economy. Oil and gas pretty much accounts for about 40% of our GDP and 75% of our total exports. And married to that is our incredibly large carbon footprint. Stefan mentioned carbon emissions earlier, and I was very much dismayed when I read a couple of years ago, based on the World Bank Carbon Data Project, I was so alarmed to see that our small island developing state was placed within the top 3 of carbon offenders worldwide. And we are just a tiny island, and to think that we are within the top 3 of carbon offending emissions, it's such an unfortunate thing. I pretty much tell my students the same thing year after year, because I do teach environmental science and geography to high school students, and I remind them that the environment doesn't need us. We need the environment. We are put here as these custodians, these caretakers, and what better way to sustain our environment by investing in it. And sustainability is really the key to a green and prosperous future. And someone mentioned earlier, I think it was David, was it? He said that people are often with this mindset that sustainability and prosperity can go hand in hand. But, it's all about, as you mentioned, rethinking and revisiting that issue, because that brings us to this term and this phrase of sustainable development, where we can and where we should develop sustainably. And often, I think it's the small actions and the small steps that can allow us to do so. And a lot of it should be done really on that personal level. And when it begins on that personal level, then we can build and move forward. Simple things such as just reducing, reusing, recycling, rethinking, reinvesting. Those simple little actions of making those suitable switches and those substitutions. When you think about plastic is such a major offender. I can tell you on a personal level, for me, I have made, the little switches of using a refillable water bottle, encouraging my students to do the same, using a reusable bag instead of that plastic bag. Anything that can move you away from that one-time use, I think is such a good start and such a good foundation to build on showing that you truly care about our environment.
Absolutely, and thank you very much for that insight all the way from your side of the world. And talking about little steps, I'm always thinking about if you have a garden, perhaps you have a little garden in at home. Would you throw litter in your own garden? No, probably not. Just because you are responsible for it, you will pay for it. You probably have to pick up. While we do this on a global level, we do throw litter in the homes of our neighbors, in the environment, and everywhere else. So it's just about bringing attention and bringing awareness to the issues that we all face collectively. Thank you very much. Now, Mr. Richard, I would like to switch gear with you. Richard Morton is with us. I didn't read his bio, so I'd like you to introduce yourself and please let us know what can I do as an individual to make a positive impact. I know that you are an environmental activist. Just let us know as individuals what can I do to make a positive impact on the environment, and from your point of view, what is the importance of Earth Day? Richard, please unmute yourself and go ahead.
Well, I was unexpected to speak as I was just like in the web link. So I'm not necessarily an environmental, but I'm an emotional activist as far as that's what I work with, men and women emotions. We're driven emotionally to buy things, to do things. So all the technical things sound good, but we're driven by media, by advertising to purchase and consume things. So we're a large throwaway society because it's always driven by money, dollars, and publicity. We have a global identity that says when I have this, I'll have something, I'll be worth something, which is again it's a consumer-driven society by big media and big tech to constantly have us buying the latest phone. So having things that are repairable is super important. Having products that we're pushing back to manufacture that last. And we grew up with fridges and stoves that last us 20 years. Now after 5 years, we're throwing these things into landfill sites and all kinds of things like that. So again, I look at the entire emotional side, which is what drives our society, in our environment. You talk about it in the garden, we don't realize how sustainable that is in our physical health, which leads to our emotional health again. So it's going back to the bigger picture of what is the motivation with us. Again, we can put all the technical aspects we want, all the data, but if we don't have that internal drive to do it, and from a core of ourself and our heart, we just becomes invisible to it. So again, I'll do anything I can to help on becoming aware of the inner driving force, and that's really where I come from, my own training. And and our relationship with ourselves, a relationship with our family, is what makes that connection for all of us to build sustainability. And we get hooked into stuff, purchasing stuff. We're just doing it ourselves as we're downsizing to head to Mexico to look at different lifestyles. Our lifestyle will be out of a suitcase and a backpack, from owning a home. So it's not for everybody, but it's a change of energy and emotional energy that I have to have this all these big stuff to feel safe. And our safety is always within us. And we can build that sustainability from there. So thank you for the opportunity. It was unexpected, but I'm honored to take part.
Thank you very much for your contribution. Again, you are here. We'd like to hear your opinion, as everybody's opinion and everybody's behavior is really important. Going around the world, coming back home to North America, Richard and everyone else. Troy, you've been with the U.S. Air Force. You have probably been involved in U.S. politics. What can we do on a family level, in your opinion? Again, leaving the bigger picture to politicians, what can we do as individuals to bring awareness to our families, Troy? If you can give us an insight on that from your perspective of being involved in big business and government business, if you will.
First of all, I'm about to jump out of my skin over here. Let me tell you something. Everyone has said some powerful, powerful words. And what I tell people that we can control what we eat and how we're growing what we eat in a sustainable manner. Okay? I'm going to give you some statistics that are probably going to blow your mind. Okay? The average family, and I'm talking about U.S., it's different all over the world. The average family in the United States drives 4 miles each way, back and forth, to the grocery store. This equates to over 17 million metric tons of CO2 gas being released every week. That is every week. There's over 300 million tons of trash going into our landfills. Less than 20% is being recycled. So, when we can grow our own fruits, vegetables, herbs in a sustainable manner in our home, like I'm doing, and like many other clients are doing, you take the grocery store, for the most part, out of that equation, right? And then once you get to the grocery store, there's plastic everything, non-recyclable items. Richard said, you know, corporations are getting us to go into these stores and they're buying the shiny red bags. The kids are like, Mommy, Daddy, get me this, right? And then when they get that box of cereal, that cereal contains chemicals in it, right? So society is contributing to a lot of the problems that are going on. But we can't wait. We can't wait for reports to come out, right? Let's do the eye test. We know what's going to happen in Ukraine. We don't need reports to come out and tell us that. So we need to be proactive and take action now, right? We don't want to wait on a report and then 10, 15 years later, you know, millions of people have perished away because we didn't take action. So again, the importance of every day being International Mother Earth Day. I love that, Doctor. It's critical. We must take action. We must be bold. We have to. I don't want my granddaughters growing up into a world that's unsafe to even go out and breathe in. I want them to, as you said, I want them to enjoy the parks, right? Go to the beach without running up on plastic being brought in from the tide. There's got to be action. And I'm very confident today that today is going to start that call to action. As this recording goes out and more people see and they hear what we're talking about, they're going to know that we are the people and we have the power. We can do this thing united. There's an organization, Team Trees and Team Seeds. They planted over 20 million trees in 2 years. They raised over $30 million to clean up the waterways around the world, $1 at a time. And a lot of that had to do with the younger generation, the kids donating $1. So we know we can do it. We know we can do it. So I'm encouraging everyone to collaborate, Let's take care of Mother Earth once and for all. Let's keep this movement sustainable, right? We're talking about sustainability and prosperous. It goes together. It goes together. Everyone on this panel is practicing sustainability, and I just go out on my way and I'm just saying, everyone at least has $500 in their bank account, right? That's not neither here nor there. But I'm just trying to tell you, you can be prosperous and be sustainable, but the power is in the people. And I just invite you to just please get in touch with me so I can talk about gardening in your own home. I got programs for kids, boys and girls clubs over here in America. They get a free gardening system, and they're growing fruits, vegetables, herbs. They're selling them out in the neighborhoods, in the community. It's having a profound impact. And less people are going to the store to buy that produce. By the way, it has less nutritional value than, a week-old grape. But that's a whole other story. Let's live sustainable. Let's live life, and let's be prosperous.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Troy, for that insight. As being fathers and mothers and being guides to our children, also, as Dr. Arun said, the Mother Earth, we only got one of that. We got to take care of that. I believe that environmental issues, all kinds of issues, besides the bigger picture of governments and policies, start at home. Eric, I read a little bit about your background with EnviroDad. You're also a YouTuber, enlightening people about environmental issues. We have a lot of great policies here in Canada. I've traveled the world, and I'm a passionate advocate that some of these policies, some may agree, some may not agree, but I wanted to have them spread out throughout the world. So tell us what you talk about in your channels, on EnviroDad, and on YouTube channels that you talk about to bring awareness about the environment. Eric?
So thank you. I should preface by saying, I come from media. I have 30 years of media background. I'm a journalist and as a speaker. My YouTube content, I've actually become more of an automotive specialist as well. I co-founded the Canadian Green Car years ago. But I'm really a storyteller. I understand the way that stories are told, and I understand what it is that brings people to make decisions as they need to do. Richard, in his sort of ad hoc edition, spoke about emotional priorities here. And I think this is something that we have to basically use as an umbrella understanding. Everyone on this panel, anyone listening here, is going to have a firm understanding of what needs to be done. It's one thing to know what we need to do. It's another thing to want to do it. And this is a fundamental guiding principle. The human condition is only going to go so far as it wants to go. We can make logical arguments, but the truism of humans is that we think with our heads, that we act with our hearts. So if we want to draw connectivity to the rationale of what we need to do versus what we're going to do, we have to understand that everybody is going to have their own profound motivation to get to that point. Any kind of change is a two-part principle. Number one, you have to have that epiphany, that necessary change is needed. And that's not just about the environment. That's about anything. That's about, I gotta lose weight, or I gotta fight less with my spouse, or whatever it may be. You have to know it's necessary. But once that happens, then you've got to find within yourself the motivator that within yourself is both sustainable and viable to do. This is where in the environmental sphere, I think we sometimes get into conflict. For as much as this is a moral imperative, we can't always assume that everybody is going to be motivated by the moral imperative that it is. Going back 2,000 years to Aristotle, he understood in rhetoric the importance of ethos, pathos, and logos as motivators for persuasive communication. So I always tell people, one example, I've done TED Talks. I've been part of Al Gore's Climate Reality Project. I've spoken to 40,000 high school students across North America. I've done keynotes to business audiences. And we're looking for different motivations. Like a classic example I give to students I'll tell people that in only 45 minutes, the sun sends enough energy directed at the earth that if we were able to hold on to that energy, use it as necessary, in that 45 minutes, we would have captured enough energy to meet the demands of our planet for a full year. So they say, wow, well, why aren't we doing that? Well, the reality is we're still not quite technically profound enough at storage and even at the efficiency of generating. So I look at those kids in the audience, they say, how many of you want to get into science or chemistry or engineering? You know, everyone wants to be doctors and lawyers, so a few put up their hands. And I said, you know what, there's your pet project. If somehow as your goal, you were able to figure out, and you don't have to figure out how to gather 45 minutes of energy at once, but divide that by 365. If you solve that critical problem that we're missing, and at the end result, it meets our needs, and in the end, it makes you richer than Bill Gates, Warren Buffett, and Jeff Bezos combined, so long as you did it legally and ethically, good on you. We have to understand that we're motivated by different things. Some people are motivated by the greater good. I'm a father of 4. Mine is my legacy. Some are altruistic. Some are innovative. Some are entrepreneurial. The one way to make sure that we all get to that end direction is to be less judgmental on the motivations that get us there, so long as we are all getting there within the confines of, again, morality and ethics. I think one of the better ways to say this is the late American author Wayne Dyer put it very succinctly. If you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So it's all about perspective. I mean, my company name is Modern Media Perspectives because perspective is everything, and media is everything too. The literal definition of media in the dictionary is simply the plural form of media. All media is, and all it has ever been, is just a method to deliver a message. We live in a much different era today. You know, I got my degree learning how to edit with razor blades. Now I just go click, click, click. And our kids go click, click, click. There's as much power in my hand right now as there was in Houston Mission Control when the Mercury missions went up into space. So we live in a different world, and the dissemination of motivation and information is there. So we all need to sort of understand what motivates us. Instead of pushing you to a conclusion, allow ourselves to be guided. Understand Freud's 3 levels of consciousness in our minds, how we have a conscious and a subconscious and an unconscious. It's really our our subconscious mind that has the anchors that we're guided towards. So figure that out. Tell the stories about what needs to be told. Tell it in the way that resonates. Sarana, as a school teacher, you would fully understand that students are motivated in their own way. You tell them a story, let them figure it out. So I think that's really the key here. It's not the message itself, but the way we're communicating, the way we're getting people to receive that information. If you tell something, there's that psychological term called the backfire effect. If you point your finger at someone and say, blah, 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 you're doing your... I learned some motivational words from the legendary Dr. David Suzuki when I was doing my first training with Al Gore in Montreal in 2007. I won't say it verbatim because he used some difficult language, but when we talked about the giant onerous task of saving the Earth, Dr. Suzuki himself told me correctly, the Earth doesn't give a bleep about climate change. The Earth has been around for billions of years and it's survived all kinds of conditions that we'll never survive. It's not the Earth we have to care about, but it's a much narrower band that we exist in. So sometimes if we take the overburdening burden that comes with this crisis and make it more tangible, relevant. I mean, you know, the Chinese have it right. Their words for crisis and danger and opportunity is also the symbol for crisis. I should say danger and crisis is opportunity. They understand the same thing. So let's shape the message that way, and we'll get much better results.
Thank you very much, Eric, for that great insight and learning opportunity. Before we continue on, there's a couple of announcements I wanted to make for our team who has put together this program. Also, we have Admin 360 every Sunday at 10 a.m. Eastern Time is open up talking about issues that impact all of us. So make sure that you also watch that. We're part of also a Tamil Live talk show, the biggest Tamil TV show in North America. Looking forward to having some contribution in different cultural settings. Also, we have monthly webinars every month at Saturday, every first Saturday of the month at 10 a.m. Please join us then. Also, we talk about on May 7th, Men of the North as a part of our Canadian culture here, talking about all of the issues that we all collectively face. Also, monthly special shows every second Saturday of the month. We talk about the unspoken tears, all of the pains that we all face collectively right now. I believe our Earth is facing some challenges, some pains that's why we're discussing here. We have the Authors Circle that every third Saturday of the month we talk about from 11 a.m. to 12 a.m. Eastern Time. And we are on podcast platforms, including iPhone, Google Play, and so on. A monthly men's group. So those of you who are interested in joining us with men's group, the issues that are important to you or that you might be facing, we talk about those, and passing the talking stick every Friday, every fourth Friday of the month from 6 p.m. to 7 p.m. We talk about those. Again, those are a few announcements that I wanted to make before we continue now. Going back around the globe and talking to our partners overseas. Jewel, you've been sitting there patiently listening to all of our speakers, and your input is really important. I know that Malaysia is one of the countries that is growing, that is expanding, that is basically making an impact. Tell us a little bit about the issues, the policies that are being in place, if there are any, to help make the Earth a greener place.
Right. Thank you, Arif. When I talk to industry, it is often about profits. And you find that the environment, society, and the economy is interrelatable, right? So it comes down to a question of ensuring that industry can continue to be profitable without sacrificing the environment. So when we talk about the three important elements of sustainability, we talk about people, we talk about the planet, and we talk about profit. So whatever environmental solutions that we come up with must ensure that industry can keep moving. This is probably the base for most up and coming third world countries, countries seeking to get into the first tier. The problems that we face, I suspect, are the same around the world in terms of overconsumption, overproduction. There's also a sense of overtrade, right? These are the challenges that we face. They are all economic factors. So when we go down to industry, we tell them to start small. Jumping right into it and trying to be green overnight sometimes leads to disillusionment. When you see profits drop, people back off, right? So and I sometimes fear that all of the talk of impending doom leads to people taking the foot off the pedal on this very serious issue. So taking small steps, it becomes easier. My approach is that we all start by being conscious about our energy usage, right? So we tell the industry, let's see if you can reduce your monthly energy bills. So how do you do this? Let's look at alternatives to sources of energy. Solar, we've got a whole lot of sunlight. As I told you, we've Malaysia, our temperature is at 30 degrees centigrade practically all year round. Humidity levels are upward of 70% in most areas. We're a peninsula surrounded by water. But so reducing your energy bills, that's the key thing for industry. So when we offer them solutions with regard to solar, green gensets, generator sets that consume up to 30% less fossil fuel than a conventional genset, we've got industry all interested, right? There is a buy-in when people realize that they can save as well as be sustainable. So I think that's how you approach this topic when we talk to the industry. When you come down to the family units, you've got to shift gears, right? You start by helping your kids make informed decisions. know that whatever you do, whatever they do, there is a footprint and there are consequences to their actions. So when you teach them this, you realize that they automatically adopt this into their daily lifestyle, right? Taking them to the supermarkets, teaching them to buy right. That's an important step because the back end of it is we are indirectly, well, I would say directly, forcing manufacturers and industries to change their processes and become sustainable because you've got the buying power, you've made informed decisions. So first and foremost, I think we need that sense of education, whether it's for the family unit or for industry. I think that's a good place for us to start.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Joel. That was great insight. And I was going on thinking about some of the policies that we have here. Dr. Arun, for example, in Canada, we have a lot of road signs talking about really taking small steps of throwing out garbage, from a car window, as I did see happening in the Middle East as I was walking around and absorbing things. And do you think that having policies that enforce, for example, on the roadside says throwing garbage out, $500 fine just for that? Do you think implementing some of those policies in India, elsewhere, might be able to work, or what can we do to reduce pollution of all kinds and littering and environmental pollution? Dr. Arun, please go ahead.
Regarding this littering problem and the sensitization of the public, now things have changed rapidly in our country in last 5 years. I have seen, and it's already appreciable in the government of India initiative. And now the cleanliness, especially clean water and clean air. So this is the theme of the government of India, to sensitize the public and advertise, on mass media, so that each and every public have a feeling of inculcation of clean air and clean water issue. And I'm very much touched upon about Richard Martin, who was talking about the emotional aspect. So in the being a professor of the university, I always emphasize that there should be curriculum related to the environmental issue and especially the sustainable life and how we should protect and respect our Mother Earth, how it nurture. This all curriculum should be mandatory to all the class students, like having class 1 to like PhD or anything, okay, UG and PG, so that the public does have a subconscious mind and having the feelings of respect to the Mother Nature. So now, after having evolving lot of internet and mass media, public is getting a lot of awareness. But the problem lies in the governmental, especially in the geopolitical aspect, where many countries, it's a bipolarization or multipolarization of the countries. They talk something, but they in the background they behave something. Like there's a right polarization, a war or conflict. So I always emphasize in my teaching and in my lectures and in my writings that there should be environmental issue. This curriculum should be to all the students. It's not only for India but for whole nation and whole world also should follow this. And secondly, we should adopt a life of minimalistic life. So in ancient India, in our Vedic culture also, there used to be feeling of minimalistic life. That how as minimum as possible things should be in the whole, like less paraphernalia to just sustain your life. Unnecessarily, why to amass lot of things which is leaving lot of carbon footprint. And especially now, as the water is in plenty, I know in the ocean, like 70% volume of this earth is water, but potable water is decreasing. So there should be, sensitization of throughout the world to harness the rooftop water wherever there is precipitation in the earth, so that water table remain as such. There should be less involvement of plastics, especially one-time plastic. So for that purpose, we should use, recyclable. Because like sometimes I have seen, like for just half an hour, we have a grocery stuff in a polythene, But that half an hour job of plastic is being, taken care by thousands of years of earth to recycle it. It takes more than 500 years to get recycle such plastics. So we should have alternative, option of these plastics also. So these few ideas are being incorporated in our country.
Wonderful, great to know all of those are being brought to the surface as India has a big population, just like China. I know that they kind of adopted what the Western world was doing. First was carbon fuels, and then just get it into production, mass production. Then finding out, oh, we got all these problems, and now let's go back to fix it. So it's really great to go and start initiatives where we don't have to fix a problem but prevent one. And I think ocean, fuels for ships are one of the biggest contributors to pollution. In October 28, 2016, a new policy was passed that fuel for ships should go from 3% sulfur to 2%, which probably will impact lives of many people in terms of breathing and all the problems that it causes, and now it's preventing. So I'm glad to see all these initiatives being put in place all around the world. Now, Sarana, yes, sir, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just wondering to share with you that Mahatma Gandhi used to be the father of our nation. Once he said that the greed of the person is unlimited. So earth can sustain the need of the person, but not the greed of the person. And this all, industrialization, extreme industrialization, and there's a, shortcut, competition between the countries, and a lot of, war situation or, transportation and using all mechanical developments is affecting and leaving a lot of carbon footprint. So there should be some control over there. And I believe United Nations, and especially UNEP, United Nations Environmental Program, should have some punitive power, not only just suggestive power to control the country all over the globe, but there should be some punitive power, or some countries should be punished to give up some money to other countries if they are beyond the permissible level of emission carbon footprint. So there should be some check and balance with it, because Mother Earth is not just part of one or few countries. It is property for everyone.
Absolutely, and thank you very much. One of the topics of discussion that I have noticed in Canada particularly was carbon tax. Putting policies in place that polluters basically get fined with carbon tax. And I think 10 years later, I was reading some research last night that there has been some results brought up that it has made an impact in the environment. But again, going to micromanagement of really family managing their own environmental awareness, wanted to ask Sarana from her point of view in where she's teaching younger generation, which is really important in bringing awareness to all of us, in teaching our kids, perhaps in school systems, about environmental awareness. What are we doing in your part of the world to bring more environmental awareness? Is the government system supporting your activities and what you're doing in your classrooms?
So in terms of disseminating the information and putting the information out there, it's there. But the problem is getting people to act on that information. And you had mentioned policies earlier. The thing is, we have so many pieces of legislation here in Trinidad, so many policies that are aimed at environmental conservation. But the problem is not the implementation, the problem is the enforcement and the monitoring. Because, I think it comes down to personal responsibility. And if people do not take the responsibility to act on what they should do, and if they don't realize that there are consequences to their actions, then they're pretty much free to do what they want. I'll give you just a funny, well, what I think is a funny example here in Trinidad. Sometimes along the highway, you might often see a little sign at the side of the highway that says, "Do not dump garbage here." And the irony of it is at the bottom of that sign, there's a little pool of garbage. And, you know, as I said, there are the laws, there's the signage, there are the policies that are there, but where is the enforcement and where is the monitoring to ensure that people adhere to these laws and policies? And when I tell my students about this, they said, well, you know, sometimes we need incentives as human beings to do the right thing, you know, so this is where the rewards and the sanctions come into play. If you are given an incentive to do the right thing, you may be more apt to do it. If you are being penalized and or you're being punished, but you know, you just mentioned the carbon tax and the carbon emissions. If those things are imposed at a greater level, then you know, people would be more aware of their actions and their adverse impacts on the environment.
Wonderful. Wonderful. Thank you, Sarana, for the insight. That's a great way of putting it, and really getting initiatives and getting people involved at all kinds of levels and bringing awareness. At the home, in my own family, I talk about these things. We go for walks in nature, just to letting them know that the environment is a part. We're part of the environment, like Dr. Arun said. And they said, I heard this, that a society grows great when old men plant trees in the shadow of which they know they will never see. You know, it's planting for the next generation. So, Stefan, you sitting there in Kenya.
Sorry, that's the Chinese proverb: one generation plants the trees, the next get the shade. It's the same as the Native American proverb that says we haven't inherited this planet from our ancestors; we're only borrowing it from our children.
Absolutely, and we're here to bring awareness not only for ourselves but for our children. Stefan, there in Kenya, I know you're facing a lot of challenges with mining, with perhaps not being so much regulated as in the Western world that you're facing. Again, having signs on the side of the road that says don't litter because you're going to get $500 fine, and all of these things that I love to see around the world. What is happening in Kenya? Is there such incentives, or is the government just about mining and developing the economy regardless of the environment?
Thank you, Arif. I want to appreciate all that has been said before in terms of us as on individual basis or at family levels, what everyone is doing. There is one part that Africa is really looking forward to, the 10% forest cover. Back here in Kenya, there's a lot of ecosystem restoration in terms of tree plantings. Maybe at individual levels, I would actually say that these are opportunities for individuals to participate in the cleanups that are done for the rivers, most polluted rivers. The use of, if you allow me just to go a bit back, in terms of education, there is the part that you mentioned about policy, educational policy being inclined towards environment and climate change ideas or solution-based for that. Back here in Kenya, in terms of policy, we are doing good because Kenya recently just passed the 2016 Climate Change Act, and it's being trickled down to counties or other parts of the country, and it's being appreciated. Us as maybe an organization or me as an individual, I have been involved in a lot of community sensitization and capacity building in terms of influencing behavioral change and attitude. Then there is also youth activities that we participate in after doing the sensitization and capacity building by telling them to come up with locally led actions that they feel are solutions to them. And we've had so many innovations in terms of that, even creation of machinery and techniques that are a solution to the needs of those suffering maybe in a certain area. There is also the climate change, the environmental and climate change inclination or for curriculums in that Kenya is coming up with. There is the bills that are actually coming up for water catchment areas protection, and maybe forest areas, that all these are going actually to assist in saving Mother Earth. Maybe in terms of at national level, maybe what I would actually ask even other countries. Countries report to the UNFCCC their ambitions in terms of carbon emissions through an NDC, nationally determined contribution. Maybe as activists, as environmentalists, as people who are concerned and professionals in this in the climate change field, these documents that countries normally report to the UNFCCC with, those are the documents that maybe at individual level, at professional levels, or organizational levels, we should be looking at in terms of saving Mother Earth in regards to policy push. That does it work? What is a country that where I come from, like Kenya, reporting in terms of emissions and how to manage whatever small that they are emitting? Those are actually just but a few. But then, personally, as a climate change activist, we are pushing it to another level where we are having discussions on climate finance. That how much is being budgeted for by the government in terms of adaptation and mitigation issues towards climate change effect and impact on those suffering more. And then there is also other activities like being involved in the Red Plus project that is actually helping on the carbon credits laws creation, maybe for Africa. And the reports from Red Plus project has actually not come out clear how positive, how impactful it has been, but then it's only 2 years since its implementation started. Maybe we are waiting to see reports from all over the continent, and then see what do we learn, what do we learn from other continents, from other countries, that we can do best in all this. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Stefan. I'm glad to see all those initiatives are being put in place and you're following up. I believe that this panel right here, if we get involved in our own little communities, we can make a big impact. And as we come towards the end of our show, I wanted to go around and ask you your best advice for this Earth Day. And I know Eric is our co-Canadian right here in the city of Toronto. I read a little bit about his bio, being very active and also getting involved in the community is very important for all of us. We can talk to politicians tomorrow, and nobody will really listen to us unless we go to grassroots. I was in the Middle East. I approached the government officials in Turkey, in north of Iraq, and in parts of Iran, and I saw that nobody was really listening. But if we start grassroots and start in our own community and group people together to talk about this, we can make an impact. And I think Eric does this. Eric has gotten a lot of awards from City of Ajax and talking about environmental issues. Enlighten us, Eric. What can we do as a team right here? All of these environmental enthusiasts, and we're going to go around and talk to other members here, but let's start with you, as you do a lot of activities in the areas of community service.
Well, keep it really simple. I just think that we have to collectively understand that one of the biggest challenges that we face is the mindset. And too many people think that this is too onerous, it's too challenging, it's too disruptive, it's too difficult. I said in the beginning that the path to a sustainable future is also a prosperous one. And we have to remind people that what we need to do isn't so bad. Engaging people to understand the power of small is very important. I think the quickest analogy I can give you as a summary, again, I worked a lot in transportation and cars, and I review electric cars. I've done them all. all my neighbors, as an auto journalist, I have a different car in my driveway every week. They all know what I do. And when they see a car they like, they ask, can we go for a ride? I've had electric cars in the driveway and someone says, can we go for a ride? I say, sure, let's go. They want to get the passenger seat. I say, no, get in the driver's seat. We go around for 10, 15 minutes. We'll go back to the driveway and I'll say, so what did you think? And time again, they say, it drives just like a car. And of course, that's what it is. Collectively, if we simplify the challenge, if we remove the fears, if we just say, hey, it's okay. We've got a place to go. And it's not so scary. It's not so onerous. It's not so cumbersome. Let's go together. As the, and forgive me, Steve, I don't want to take an African proverb away from you, but of course, with the saying, if you want to go far, if you want to go far, you go together. If you want to go quickly, you go alone, right? Well, we have to go far and we have to go together. So let's bring them in. Let's welcome the ideas. Let's understand the fears. And I think together we'll go farther that way.
Arif, you are muted.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, Eric, for your great insight. And we're looking to adopt some of these discussions that are being talked about here all over the world. And your Canadian perspective is very valuable to us here at home. We also wanted to hear from Troy, who's been sitting there thinking about U.S. policies on the environmental, I think on carbon tax and all of these things between U.S. and Canada's going back and forth. And finally, I think we're coming to terms that it impacts all of us, not only Canada and U.S., but globally. Troy, what can we do here as a groups, as individual, as a team of environmental activists to bring awareness on a grassroots level, perhaps to our communities and to our governments? What are your thoughts on that front, sir?
Well, again, everyone has had great introspect, and I really appreciate it because I've learned a lot from each and every one of you. But again, the word small steps has been used several times today. And Confucius said, if man is to move a mountain, he must begin by carrying away small stones. So what we're talking about today is those small stones before we're going to move that mountain. And the sustainable farming that I teach to everyone, and we're getting ready to prepare for a presentation to the Biden administration on bringing this nationwide here in the U.S. But the kids are an intricate part of that, right? They say children are our future, but children are actually our now. So we have to get our kids involved because we learn so much from kids. I have a 10-year-old granddaughter. She is so smart because God gave us 2 ears, 1 mouth, so we listen twice as much, right? So we have to listen more like I'm listening to you folks today. But it's time for us to just stop being human beings and being human. Let's get down to the basics so we can all collaborate and make a difference. And that is going to be the key. Continue what we're doing today. Let's not make it an isolated event. Again, International Mother Earth Day every day. The same way every day is Veterans Day. That's what we have to do. But I would just encourage anyone who wants to collaborate and you want to learn about sustainable farming, taking control of your food source, you can just reach out to Troy 10K, that's TROI 10K.com, and we're going to make it happen. Well, I don't care where you are in the world, we can make a difference when we unite. So again, thank you so much for this platform. I've learned so much, and I love each and every one of you.
Thank you so much, Troy, for your insight, and we're looking forward to having further discussions on the topic. And as we go around and talk about products, talk about sustainability, talk about the environment, Joel, what's happening in Malaysia is one of the places that I really like to visit in the future. I know there's a great potential there. What can you do right now, or what can you recommend the people that are in our community do in the grassroots level. I know you're a scientist that you study this stuff. What can we do on simple steps like Troy said, really to move a mountain, take a small step. What can we do? What's that small step in terms of being a good environmentalist?
Brilliant stuff, all of you, Troy, Richard, Eric, fantastic. But it all comes down to starting with me. Do a self-audit at home for you and your families. Question what you can do better. Highlight the positives, have attainable goals. It is always the low-hanging fruit that motivates us. So formulate a home action plan based on that. The choices that we make not just change things for us at home, but influence governments, influence industry. So those little decisions that we make to buy or not to buy a particular product that is green or non-environmentally friendly is an important choice, because what you do at home influences what happens out there. So if we can do this, I think there is hope for the future, for the continuation of life on the planet, the only planet that we know that can sustain life. So a simple checklist, revisit that, look at yourself and make those changes. That's all I have to share. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Joel. Great advice, and I'm like everybody said, I'm learning so much. I'm so inspired to really make this planet a better place. Sarana, we come to you with the incentive. You said that students asked you.
Sorry, Arif.
Yes, sir.
I do have an audio clip. Let me play that one. Just a quick one.
Yes, sir. We will. Let's play that audio clip. Then we're going to ask and also give Sarana some incentives to talk to your children or students about. So let's play that audio clip, Sivam, and then we're going to go ahead with the rest of wrap up. Thank you. Do we have our audio clip ready, Sivam? Yes?
Just give me 1 second.
Yes, sir.
Earth Day is on 22nd April. There's an urgent need for the world to become more recycling conscious. One way we can invest in our planet is by practicing recycling. It is unfortunate that every year the earth is filled with millions of plastic products. This poses a serious threat to this generation and the future. Poor disposal and the burning of
If you're sharing
plastics
audio only, there's a separate
release
share on Zoom
poisonous
for audio
fumes
problem.
into the air. This has
Can you hear the audio?
Again, we
No.
don't have the audio. Perhaps it's technology as we're growing, as last couple of years have provided a lot of great learning opportunity. But if the audio doesn't play, we'll continue. If it does, go ahead and try it. We can bring it on.
Sivan, it's just that when you go to your share screen, there's in the advanced share, it's audio only as opposed to sharing the screen. That's for audio clips.
Recording stopped.
You stopped the recording.
Recording in progress.
Give me 1 second.
Just look in the advanced share as opposed to share screen. There'll be audio only, and then that's for you.
Again, as we all learn together, this is a really learning opportunity for all of us, not only learning about technology and connectivity, but also about environment and some of the challenges that we face. And this may be a little bit of challenge in technology, but right now I'm facing a lot of challenges in the environment. I'm an optimist by nature. I love to have thoughts that are more positive, and I love to take out stories that are more positive about our environment, and there's tons of them. So if you have any stories to share on that front, but Sarana, you talked about incentives. Kids ask to give me an incentive to basically do the right environmental thing. I think our guest, Jewel, especially talked about starting with me, sustainable products. Maybe you can talk about this, and also see if then when they go shopping to look at the products that are more environmentally friendly, that perhaps is a good incentive for them. What can you tell us? What are you going to do in your classes after this discussion?
Yeah, I don't want to be too repetitive of what Joel and Eric and Troy have said, because they've made such amazing points and such amazing contributions. And of course, it all comes down to you. I see that we're all using different quotes. And I know Dr. Arun might appreciate this one from Mahatma Gandhi: "You must be the change you wish to see in the world. It begins with you and your choices and your personal responsibility." And in terms of sustainable products, we have a program here called the iCare program, which has been very successful in terms of encouraging students to be more sustainable in what they buy, in terms of being more aware of the impact that they can have when they reduce, reuse, and recycle. And one of the amazing incentives that they've created is that they've hosted several competitions, both at the school level and at the national level, where they are providing those rewards if you can show how much you recycle over a period of time. And I think doing things like that, hosting the competitions, hosting the workshops, creating those rewards and incentives really works to encourage people to do the right thing. Again, as I would have said before, it's all about personal choice in terms of wanting to be sustainable and doing the right thing. I can tell you, for me, on a personal level, it's been a little bit challenging over the past 2 years, but I have really tried to not use products or products that are associated with the palm oil industry, because it is such a major driver of deforestation, and it takes away the habitat of so many species that are threatened worldwide. So I'm a big snacker. I used to eat a lot of Oreos and potato chips, and sometimes just simple as reading the labels and reading your ingredients and seeing where these ingredients come from and the type of processing and operations that it takes to use to put those ingredients into those products. It's just sometimes it's just as simple as Googling something. See where it comes from. What does it do? What sort of impact does it have on the environment? And I think education and knowledge is always the best start to taking a step and to taking action, to know what you can and can't do. And, that's basically what we encourage in my class, where we inform you and then you take that information and you decide how best you can use that information to the environment, to the benefit of the environment, as well as to yourself.
Thank you so much for your input, and I'm glad to hear that you're going to take some of these initiatives and some of your own and getting involved in the classroom setting to enlighten the younger generation. Stefan, before we go to Dr. Arun, I wanted to get your input and last word on what can be done on very grassroots levels to bring awareness to the community that you are in. I know in third world countries or some of the countries that I visit, everybody's just about economics. How much can I get? How fast can I get it? What can we do to say, hold on, there's a bigger picture here?
Thank you, Arif.
We'll go with Stefan first. We'll come back to you last, Dr. Arun, and let's hear Stefan's take on this. What can we do to bring this awareness?
Just as everybody has said, at individual levels, maybe what people can do to have a sustainable lifestyle is in the simplest form. Let's relook and sensitize people on reducing or using less energy. In terms of beef production, in terms of meat, let's let people eat less, and let's tell them why. Let's use more reusables as alternatives. And then the other thing is going paperless as an easy solution to reducing deforestation, using recycled and reusable products. you growing your own food, just as Arun has said, Troy actually advised us when he was starting. And then even donating unused items that you really do not need in maybe your house would actually contribute to something that maybe less of waste in terms of shopping for exactly what you really need. In terms of at individual levels and products that one can use, it's reusable lunch wraps, recycled and actually you can actually use reusable and rechargeable crank flashlights in your homes, or compostable party plates. The one that are compostable bowels that can actually decompose in the environment. And then maybe travel pouch made for recycle bike tubes, something like that. Those are small things that maybe at individual levels, if we actually relate them to the communities that we live in. I love the example that somebody actually drove a renewable energy vehicle, and they were so excited about it, and they opted that they were actually going to buy that. That is a positive story towards all this behavioral change and attitude that we really want to bring to this world in terms of saving Mother Earth. Thank you.
Thank you, Stefan. That was some great insights on reusing, growing our own foods, and again, sharing stories, positive stories. Dr. Arun, if you have any stories to share as we come to a conclusion with a great story from Eric. Tell us about, if you have a positive story about environmental change impact that we make, or the steps that we should take as the last word, please.
Okay, going ahead to my previous speakers, Stefan and Sarana and others, I would like to add upon that we should try to, minimize eating the exotic foods. It's the natural, law that within 50 kilometers or so, whatever is the food or vegetation is there, that is the perfect for the body to digest, rather than using something that is thousands miles away from that place. So naturally, we should try to use only endemic food. Number 2 is like that, like why not the eatables and some products of, electrical appliances or anything. These all items should have a barcode or some number that how much carbon footprint this product has left behind while manufactured. Maybe this eatable. So there should be some awareness for the individual to choose or not to choose. So this way, we can demoralize something product that is having more carbon footprint while the manufacturer. And one more thing I can add upon, that we should try to eat less non-vegetarianism, because non-vegetarianism and to get something meat product that consume a lot of carbon footprint, because vegetables and vegetarianism is close to nature, and it is very much recyclable, or I can say it's more sustainable. And another form is to have a peacemaking mechanism between the country, so that conflict is as less as possible between the countries, so that especially armies do not fight. So there should be peacemaking by the United Nations. There should be peacemaking and creativity for ideas, so that harmony is more over this Mother Nature. Because ultimately, humans are not for the nature. Like we are for the nature. Nature is for not us. Okay? And nature is the best teacher from where we can learn each and everything. So we should respect Mother Nature. There should be more dialogue, and we all should start whatever we have talked about, from our own life and from our own family. Then we can think of of the society and other countries. So this is my take home message.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Dr. Arun. That was great insight. And we can all learn from the founding father of India, as we all love the peaceful way that he ended all war and got the, independence from British by nonviolence. So hopefully we see peace around the world. I believe for last closing of our show today, Eric has a great story to share. We love to share positive stories that make an impact. I believe Eric might have a story that we might all take home and share with our loved ones to make an impact on the environment. Eric, are you there briefly? And if you can share your story, and as we come to the end of our show today. Thank you, sir.
Sure. No, well, just as we were talking about some of the ideas of recycling, a story popped in my head again. It is true that in the hierarchy of reduce, reuse, recycle is the third on purpose. It is the last of the three that we should do: reduce first, reuse second. But the father of the person who created the curbside blue box that the world uses as a thing was a man who was actually from Toronto. His name was Jack McGinnis. Kitchener, Ontario, in 1981 was the first city to ever in the world adopt a pilot project of curbside recycling. In the blue box, it was 1,500 homes, and from that, what we see today evolved. Jack passed away in 2011. Unfortunately, he was only in his 60s. But I was one of the last people to ever interview him on camera, on video, and I still have his interview on my YouTube channel today. Two things that he told me about that really struck with me. Number one, in the beginning, every blue box that was in existence, one of the things they knew, they had to have a collective will. So on the side of every blue box was the words, "We recycle." It's not "I recycle," but "we recycle." They understood the need to, everyone wants to be a part of the "we," there's this curiosity. But the real interesting story that he told me is in 1996, their organization partnered with Coca-Cola in Atlanta when the Olympic Games were being held. Coca-Cola wanted to bring this idea of recycling to the Olympic Village where journalists and athletes were having their meals. So what they did is they brought down recycling bins and they placed them right side by side with all of the garbage bins in the commissary where athletes and journalists ate, with some simple instructions on what to do, how to divert the waste, because this was new to people from around the world. And in the days that they did, they noticed that with these simple instructions side by side, the compliance was pretty good. For one day, they tried an experiment, and they moved those same recycling bins 10 feet away from the garbage receptacles with the same instructions, and to see what happened. Well, not surprisingly, compliance dropped more went into the garbage. The next day, they brought the blue boxes, the recycling bins, side by side again, and surprisingly enough, compliance went right back up. So there was a lesson in that we learned that was very simple, and I think it applies to everything we've talked about today. Generally speaking, if you give people the chance, they want to do the right thing. But at the same time, our default deficiencies of the human condition says it's also got to be easy. It's also got to be simple. It's got to feel easy. So when we come up with solutions, let's make it as easy as possible, not as complex and confrontational. We're going to get greater results in the end. And that was a great lesson that I've never forgotten.
Thank you so much. That was a great lesson. And I'm so excited. Canada's going to be in the World Cup in Qatar. So I hope that the blue bins will be introduced, and maybe through Men 360 we can approach them to copy the story about Coca-Cola to take this to Qatar. You never know who's watching around the world. I'm so excited to have this panel here. I wanted to thank you all for your time. Some of you are in the middle of the night, some of you are in the afternoon. We're here just in the middle of the day, and I wanted to wrap up by thanking all of you, and I'm looking forward to taking away stories and coming back together, hopefully in another period, and talking about all of the great success stories that we create in having a green environment, and perhaps see some more blue bins in Qatar, as that part of the world I'm close to, and it's a great need to bring environmental awareness. Thank you so much again. This is Arif Gilany. I'm with Voice of 360 and the South Asian Tamil TV channel in North America. Thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone.
everyone.
Great day, everyone. Have a good night.
Thank you, everyone.
And
Thank you.
Well,
Thanks a lot.
thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. all of
Recording
you.
stopped.
என்னடா செய்றீங்க?
not easy. டேய் யாரவி அவனை போட்டு விடுறி, அவனுக்குள்ள இருக்க சாமான் எல்லாத்தையும் எடுத்து போட்டு.